The arrival. The sky above Valari 9 was always purple. It was a strange color for a sky, but not the strangest thing that Commander Jason Ward had seen in his career. Jason stood at the top of the landing ramp of his ship, a small diplomatic cruiser, sent by Earth's Union Command. He had been sent here alone as a peace envoy. His mission was simple: make first contact with the people of Valari 9 and build trust. But the moment he stepped out of the ship, he knew something was different. A group of tall, thin aliens stood waiting for him. Their skin was pale blue. Their eyes were large and glowing white. They wore soft robes and stood completely still. No weapons, no signs of fear. In front of them, standing alone, was a young alien girl. She looked no more than 15 in human years. Her robes were simple, her hands trembling. Jason took a step forward. The girl looked up at him, and without saying a word, she fell to her knees and bowed her head low to the ground. Jason blinked. "What are you doing?" he asked, confused. "Hey, you don't need to bow. Please stand up." But she didn't move. She stayed down, forehead pressed to the dirt. Jason looked around. The other aliens had also lowered their heads slightly, but not as deeply as the girl. He walked closer, uneasy. "Seriously, you don't need to bow. I'm just a man. I came in peace." Still, she stayed down. Jason felt a strange chill, not from fear, but from something else. Respect? Worship? What was going on here? He slowly knelt beside her. "What's your name?" The girl slowly raised her head. Her eyes were full of emotion, fear, yes, but also something like hope. "My name is Lyra," she said softly. "You are human." Jason nodded. "That's right. Commander Jason Ward, Earth Union. I'm here as a friend." The girl looked at him like she was looking at a miracle. "You came back?" Jason frowned. "Back? What do you mean?" Before she could answer, an older alien stepped forward. His voice was deep and calm. "Come with us, human. The council is waiting." Jason looked at Lyra one more time. She was standing now, but still avoiding his eyes. She looked like she wanted to say more, but didn't. The walk to the village was not far, hidden between tall trees and glowing plants. Strange birds flew overhead. The buildings were smooth, white stone, shaped like shells. The people stared as Jason passed, not with anger or fear, but reverence. Some even touched the ground after he walked by. Jason leaned toward Lyra as they walked. "Okay, seriously, what's going on? Why are you all acting like I'm some kind of king?" Lyra didn't look at him. "Because of what happened long ago." Jason raised an eyebrow. "What happened?" She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Your kind. They came here, many, many years ago, in the time of the Great Fire, and they saved us." Jason stopped walking. "That's not possible. Valari 9 hasn't had contact with Earth before, at least not officially." Lyra looked at him. "Not officially, but they came. One of them wore your symbol." She reached into her robe and pulled out a small metal pendant. It was old, scratched and worn, but the symbol on it was clear: Earth Union's eagle crest. Jason's heart skipped a beat. This was military. Earth Union officers wore this 70 years ago. Lyra held it out with both hands like offering treasure. "It was passed to my family, from the one who stayed." Jason carefully took it, eyes wide. This wasn't just any crest. It had initials on the back. JW. His voice was barely a whisper. This belonged to my grandfather." The shocked Jason stared at the pendant like it was a ghost. He had always thought his grandfather died during a training mission near Mars. That's what the record said. But this pendant, it was real. What happened to him? Jason asked, his voice shaking. Lyra looked up at him with wide eyes. He came during the firestorm. He helped us. He fought against the sky demons. Then, he disappeared. Jason swallowed hard. None of this made sense. The old alien leader turned to him again. Commander Ward, your coming was foretold. The one who stayed said, one day, another will return. When the sky turns purple, again. Jason looked up. The sky was glowing violet just like now. What was this place? What did his grandfather do here? And most of all, why did everyone look at Jason like he was a legend come alive? The Forbidden Past. Commander Jason Ward could not stop staring at the pendant in his hand. It was heavy, not just in weight, but in meaning. The initials were clear, JW, his grandfather's initials. But his grandfather died during a training mission, didn't he? Lyra watched him with quiet eyes. She could see the storm of questions building inside him. I don't understand, Jason finally said. How did he get here? Why did he stay? And why are you all acting like humans are gods? The old alien elder standing behind them answered. Because the last human who came changed everything. A secret buried in time, they walked. Deeper into the village. The people didn't speak, but many stopped and stared. Some touched their chests. Others dropped their heads slightly. Jason wasn't used to this kind of attention. He had seen combat, he had commanded ships, but this was different. They entered a round hall made of smooth black stone. Strange carvings lined the walls, alien symbols glowing faintly. A large fire burned in the center. Around it sat 5 elders, all watching Jason silently. The oldest among them finally spoke. His voice cracked like dry wood. Do you believe history can be erased, Commander Ward? Jason shook his head. No, not really. The truth always finds a way. The elder nodded. We thought so too. Until the Union made sure no one remembered. Jason's eyebrows furrowed. What are you saying? The elder motioned toward the wall. One of the younger aliens pressed their hand to a glowing stone. With a soft hum, a hidden doorway opened behind the fire. Lyra looked at Jason. Come, it's time. The room of echoes, Jason followed her through a narrow stone tunnel. It opened into a large chamber, underground and cold. Unlike the natural village above, this room was made of metal and steel. Old tech, wires, and rusted panels lined the walls. Human tech. Jason's breath caught. At the center of the room stood a glass case broken in one corner. Inside was an old Earth Union uniform, carefully folded. Next to it, a military log device, dusty but intact. Lyra stepped forward. He left this behind. We were told not to touch it. But now that you're here, maybe it will speak. Jason reached out and pressed the power button. The device sparked. Then a voice began to play. It was his grandfather's voice. Mission log, 217A. Lieutenant James Ward, Union Black Ops, Valari 9, year 2587. The slavers have taken this planet by force. The Union won't admit it, but they funded part of the operation. I came here under false orders, but I'm staying here on my own. Jason's eyes widened. These people aren't just another alien race. They're peaceful, strong in spirit, but they were crushed, enslaved, sold, tortured. I can't leave. If anyone finds this message, know that Earth wasn't always the hero it claimed to be. The recording crackled and ended. Silence fell. The cracks in the truth. Jason sat down on a cold metal bench, head in his hands. His grandfather had been part of a secret mission. One Earth had covered up. He hadn't died in training. He had stayed behind, maybe even died here. But that wasn't all. Jason turned to Lyra. Why would Earth help slavers? She shook her head. We don't know. Your people left long ago. But we remember. The stories were passed down, whispered, hidden. We were told never to speak them out loud. Some believed the Union would return and punish us again. Jason felt sick. He had sworn loyalty to the Earth Union. He believed in peace, diplomacy, protection. But what if everything he believed in was based on a lie? The forbidden symbols. Jason wandered to the walls. More carvings were there. And as he looked closer, he realized they weren't just alien pictures. They were scenes. One showed tall, armored humans fighting dark, spiked ships. Another showed a human standing beside alien children, shielding them. And one showed a human dying, arms outstretched, protecting a village, wearing the same pendant now in Jason's hand. He turned to Lyra. "This is him, isn't it?" She nodded slowly. "He gave us hope. He told us to remember that not all humans are monsters." Just before the sky burned, Jason blinked. "What do you mean the sky burned?" Lyra's eyes darkened. "The slavers came back. Years later. More powerful. They wanted to destroy us. But we fought back, using what little he left behind. The pendant became a symbol of strength, a sign of his promise. The signal, suddenly, the old Union console in the corner, thought dead for decades, beeped. Jason froze. The screen flickered. Incoming signal detected. It was weak, but active. Jason rushed over. He tapped into the system. A low frequency. Code was repeating. He decrypted it. The message was simple, chilling. Unit Sigma returning to Volari 9. Operation restart. No survivors. Jason stared at the screen. Slavers. Coming back. And soon. Jason looked around the room, at the carvings, at the faces of the people, at Lyra. The past was no longer hidden, but the future might be even more dangerous. He clenched, the pendant in his fist. If they're coming back, then so am I. The Silent Temple. Commander Jason Ward barely slept that night. He sat in the cold metal chamber beneath the Volari village, the dim glow of the ancient console flickering in the corner. The message still played in his head. Unit Sigma returning. To Volari 9. Operation restart. No survivors. Who were they? Slavers? Soldiers? Something worse? And more importantly, why was no one on Earth talking about this planet, about the mission, about his grandfather? Jason looked down at the pendant in his hand. The last piece of a man whose life was rewritten in official records. His grandfather had become a ghost, erased from history. But not here. Here, he was still remembered. Worshipped, even. The journey to the temple. The next morning, as the mist still clung to the trees, Lyra found Jason outside the village. He was checking his data pad, trying to restore long-range comms. "You won't get a signal," she said quietly. Jason glanced at her. "I have to try. The Union needs to know what's coming." Lyra's expression changed. "What if they already do?" Jason paused. Her words were soft, but sharp. A thought was forming in his mind. One he didn't like. "Come with me," she said. "There's something else. Something no one's seen in years. But you might be able to open it." They walked for hours. Through thick, glowing jungles, across streams with silver fish under the shadow of giant trees that sang in the wind. The air buzzed with life and danger. Finally, they reached a mountain wall covered in vines. "This is it," Lyra whispered. At first, Jason saw nothing, just stone, but as he stepped closer, he noticed strange patterns etched into the rock, not alien, human. A faded Earth Union logo, and beneath it, a metal panel hidden behind stone. Lyra stepped back. "We tried everything. It never opened, but maybe..." Jason reached out. The panel lit up softly. DNA signature accepted. Lieutenant J. Ward. Access granted. A deep rumble shook the ground. The wall began to part, revealing an ancient temple buried inside the mountain. Jason turned to Lyra. She was staring at him like he had just performed magic. Inside the silent temple, they stepped into the darkness. Lights flickered on. Old, flickering, but working. This wasn't just a temple. It was a human outpost, built in secret. Its design was military, but parts of it had been reshaped by the locals. Statues had been added, carvings on the walls. Lyra walked ahead, slowly. After. He disappeared, she said. They sealed this place. They said it held his greatest secret, but only his bloodline could enter. Jason stopped in front of a circular door at the end of the hall. More DNA tech. He pressed his hand against it. The door hissed open. What he saw inside took his breath away. The Hall of Records. The room was circular, lined with glowing data, cores. Old Earth tech still powered by deep fusion cells. In the center stood a tall holographic pillar slowly rotating. Jason activated the console. His grandfather's voice echoed once more. If you're hearing this, then the danger never left. I wasn't the first human here. The Union sent others before me. Undercover, black ops off the books. They came to conquer, not help, but I turned against them. I led the resistance with the Valari. We won, but only for a while. The hologram shifted, showing battle footage, gritty and real. Humans in black armor, ships with no Union markings, fires raining down on the planet. Lyra gasped. This is real? Jason nodded. This was a cover-up, a secret war. More data came through, names, locations, and something worse, a project name. Project Dominion, Human-Controlled Worlds. Jason clenched his fists. They were trying to build a galaxy where Earth ruled everything, even if it meant destroying peaceful planets like yours. He stared at the rotating hologram. Suddenly it changed again. This time it showed something else. A map, real-time data, a ship, massive, moving toward Valari 9. Sigma-class infiltrator, 3 days until arrival. The revelation, Jason backed away. This is no ordinary slaver ship. This is Earth tech, modified. Lyra looked horrified. Then your own kind is coming to destroy us. Jason shook his head. No, not my kind, not anymore. He opened another file, one marked, for him. Jason, if you ever find this, I'm sorry. I couldn't tell you the truth. I didn't want you to carry this burden, but now it's yours. They'll come again. And this time we may not survive, but if you choose to stay, you'll have allies, hidden ones. The temple is more than memories. It's a weapon. Unlock it. Protect them. Be the man they believe you are. The message ended. Jason stood in silence. A deep humming started under the floor. He turned and saw part of the wall sliding open to reveal a cryogenic chamber. Inside was something large, humanoid, metal. Ancient Earth Union exosuit, custom built for war and engraved on its chest, WARD. Jason looked at the armor, then at Lyra, and in that moment he knew. His mission had changed. This wasn't about diplomacy anymore. This was about truth, legacy, and survival. The truth buried. The silence in the chamber was heavy. Commander Jason Ward stood before the eye. Massive exosuit, its surface coated in dust but still shining with an eerie blue glow. On its chest, engraved clearly, was the word WARD. Jason reached out, pressing his palm to the suit's interface. A pulse of light spread through the metal, scanning his DNA. Identity match, Jason Ward, grandson of Leighton James Ward. Legacy, protocol initiated. The chamber lights shifted. Mechanical locks released with a sharp hiss. The exosuit began to open. Behind Jason, Lyra watched with wide eyes, her hands clenched tightly at her sides. This was your grandfather's? She asked softly. Jason nodded slowly. Yeah, and somehow he knew I'd come. He planned for this. The voice of the past, a hidden speaker, activated. Jason's grandfather's voice filled the chamber again. This time, not a log, but a message made just for him. Jason, if you're here, I've already failed. I couldn't stop them forever. But I chose to stay because these people were worth saving, and now it's your turn to decide. Jason lowered his head. He could almost see the old man standing there, grizzled, tired, proud. Lyra stepped forward. He never spoke our language, but somehow we understood him. He protected us. He laughed with us, he bled for us. Her voice cracked. He was my great-grandmother's friend. She was just a child when the fire war happened. She used to sit on his shoulders. She told, Phil, he never looked at us like we were aliens. Just people. Jason swallowed hard. I didn't know any of this. The Union told my family he died in training, that there was an accident on Mars. But he didn't die there. He disappeared here, on purpose. He looked around at the chamber. The walls were full of carvings. Not just war, but peace, laughter, teaching, healing. His grandfather didn't just fight. He lived here. The council's warning back in the village. The council of elders waited for them. News of the signal had reached them. The stars are whispering. Again, one of the elders said. The darkness is moving. Jason stood before them, his voice steady. A ship is coming. Earth tech. Modified. Heavy class. They called it Sigma. You know that name? The oldest elder leaned forward. Yes, they wore black armor. No names. No mercy. They killed without sound. They were the Union's shadow. Lyra whispered. My grandmother called them sky ghosts. They took people, burned villages, left nothing but ash. Jason nodded grimly. Well, they're coming back. 3 days. The council fell silent. Then the elder spoke again. Then we have 3 days to prepare, or to say goodbye. The journal that changed everything. That night, Lyra led Jason to a quiet room in her family's home. From under a wooden floorboard, she pulled out a worn leather book, wrapped in faded cloth. This, she said, was his. Jason opened. It was his grandfather's personal journal. Not military reports, not orders, just thoughts, drawings, names, emotions. He flipped through pages filled with rough sketches of the villagers, laughing, dancing, crying. A picture of Lyra's great-grandmother, a little girl sitting on his shoulder. And at the center, a drawing of a child with short hair and large glowing eyes. The first picture of Lyra. Jason stared. Wait, this is you. Lyra blushed. I was just born when he left the village for the last time. He held me once, I don't remember it, but my mother. She said he smiled like he saw something pure. Jason turned the page. On the last entry, his grandfather had written, I don't need to go home, I found my purpose here. If Jason ever finds this place, I hope he remembers me not as a soldier, but as a man who chose love over war. The shadows arrive early. The next day, alarms rang through the jungle. Jason and Lyra rushed to the temple's outer wall. A young scout arrived, panting and terrified. I saw it, he said. A ship, in orbit, black and silent. No markings, but it's there. Jason pulled out his datapad. The sky above Valari 9 looked calm, but the sensor showed a faint electromagnetic distortion. Cloaking. Jason clenched his jaw. They're early. It's a stealth ship. They're watching us already. The council gathered quickly. Fear spread through the village like wildfire. Jason stood tall. We can't run. If we do, they'll wipe out everything. We stand now, or we lose forever. Lyra stepped beside him. Then we stand. Preparation begins. Jason began to train the villagers. Using the exosuit, he mapped battle strategies. Old tech from the hidden temple was brought out. Drones, shields, shock rifles. Tools his grandfather had hidden for a day just like this. Lyra was a natural leader. She organized scouts, set up defense lines, and through it all the people listened, not out of fear, but out of hope. Jason realized something else. His grandfather hadn't just protected them. He had taught them to one day defend themselves. And now, that day had come. Night fell. Jason stood. At the edge of the jungle, eyes locked on the sky. No stars tonight. Just shadows. The same kind his grandfather faced. Only this time, he wouldn't face them alone. Because this time, they were ready. The choice. The jungle of Valari 9 was no longer peaceful. Birdsong had vanished. The glowing insects that danced in the trees at night were hiding. Even the wind had gone silent. It was the calm before the storm. But inside the village, hearts were not calm. The weight of a legacy commander, Jason Ward, sat alone on a high stone ledge watching the sky. His exosuit rested beside him, powered down, its surface reflecting the stars. He held his grandfather's pendant in his hand, turning it over and over between his fingers. So many thoughts swirled in his mind. His mission had been clear. Travel to Valari 9, build peace, return home. A simple diplomatic assignment. But now he was preparing for war. Again, just like his grandfather. He could still hear the last line from the old journal. If Jason ever finds this place, I hope he remembers me not as a soldier, but as a man who chose love over war. But Jason wasn't sure what choice he had anymore. The offer later that night. The Union cruiser finally answered his repeated attempts to send a distress call. A tiny flicker of signal reached through the cloak interference. A voice came through. Cold. Official. Commander Ward, you are ordered to return immediately. Do not engage. Repeat. Do not engage. Your presence is unauthorized. Jason stared at the communicator. Unauthorized? He had followed every protocol. But now they were telling him to leave? He tried to respond. Valari 9 is under threat. A black class ship, likely a rogue Sigma unit, is preparing to attack. I am requesting backup. These people, the voice cut him off. We are aware. Repeat, evacuate and return. Do not interfere in local conflicts. Jason's blood ran cold. They knew, and they were doing nothing or worse, letting it happen. The choice before him. That night, Jason walked through the village. The people were asleep. Children curled next to their parents. Farmers sharpening tools for war. Elders praying in silence. And at the edge of the temple steps, Lyra waited. She looked up at him. You talked to them, didn't you? Jason nodded. They want me to leave. She didn't look surprised. And will you? Jason didn't answer. Lyra stepped closer. My great-grandmother believed your grandfather was sent here by the stars, not as a soldier, not as a hero, just as someone who saw wrong and chose to stop it. She looked into his eyes. What kind of man will you be, Jason Ward? Jason closed his eyes. He already knew the answer. The warning, the next morning, the sky turned red, not from the sun, from the ship. It broke through the clouds like a shadow with wings, silent and massive. A black, Sigma-class warship. No signals, no sounds, no lights. Then a voice echoed across the village, broadcasted from above, metallic and hollow. Valari 9 is under cleansing protocol. Resistance will be erased. Surrender all Union equipment. You have 24 hours. People froze in fear. Mothers held their children. Men looked to Jason. He stood tall, armored chest gleaming. They came before. My grandfather stood alone. But now, he looked at the villagers. Now, we stand together. Jason's decision. Jason called a meeting of all leaders. Farmers, hunters, healers, scouts. He showed them the map of the ship's movements. He laid out plans, escape paths, weapon placements. He wasn't just leading a defense. He was leading a people. I was ordered to leave, he said. But I won't. I'd rather die standing here than live knowing I left you behind. Lyra placed her hand on his shoulder. Then we'll stand with you. The crowd roared with quiet courage. Not fear, not panic, but resolve. Midnight contact. That night, while scanning the outer perimeter, Jason saw movement. Not a Sigma soldier, but a figure in a tattered Union suit crawling from the jungle. Jason rushed over. The man was half-burned, barely breathing. His armor showed old Union marks scratched off, his lips trembled. You're James Ward's blood. Jason leaned in. Who are you? The man coughed blood. I defected. Sigma is not rogue. It was always Union's shadow force. Not gone, just hidden. This is a cleanup mission. They want to wipe the last witnesses. Jason's heart stopped. This wasn't just about Valari. This was about burying the truth. Forever. The man grabbed Jason's collar. The suit your grandfather left, it holds more than weapons. It holds proof, names, coordinates, records. You have to survive. Then, he died. The last light. Jason walked back to the village. He stared at the stars, but they offered no comfort now, just cold, endless silence. The kind his grandfather must have felt. But this time, Jason wouldn't be alone. He activated the exosuit. Its core hummed to life. Old systems came online. A voice spoke. Legacy mode engaged. Defender, Jason Ward. Final directive, protect Valari. And for the first time, Jason smiled. Tomorrow would bring war, but tonight, Jason made his choice. Not as a soldier, not as a diplomat, but as a guardian of a truth too powerful to die, even if he did. The battle for Valari 9. The sun never rose that morning, because the sky was black. Not from clouds, but from the Sigma warship, now fully visible above the treetops. Like a dark god watching from the heavens, its silent engines sent waves of heat through the jungle. Animals had fled, the wind had stopped, even the glowing trees had dimmed, as if afraid. Below it, the village of Valari stood quiet, but not unprepared, because this time, they had Jason Ward, the calm before war. Jason stood at the village center, now turned into a base. Barricades made from temple stone, traps hidden under vines, drones positioned on rooftops, ancient energy weapons, repaired and humming. Villagers wore handmade armor, some painted with human symbols. Others carried old Union rifles, salvaged from the secret vaults. And at the front of it all, Jason, inside the full exosuit, glowing with blue energy, marked Ward Lyra stood beside him, holding a plasma bow, her face calm but her hands shaking. Jason looked at her. Still time to back out. She smiled faintly. Still time for you to run, Commander. He laughed once, short and dry. Fair enough. Then the alarm screamed. They were here. The first Strike Sigma dropships descended silently. Black, spider-like vessels that hovered just above the ground. Their ramps opened. Out stepped the soldiers, tall, faceless, wearing armor that shimmered like liquid metal. No emblems, no names. Only glowing red visors. One of them raised a hand. A strange humming sound spread across the trees. Jason shouted, "Now!" The villagers triggered traps. Trees exploded. Drones opened fire. Arrows flew. Chaos began. Jason charged forward, his exosuit crashing into the enemy lines like a storm. He lifted one Sigma soldier and threw him into another. His fists sparked with electric force, but the enemy wasn't slow. They adapted fast. Sigma soldiers began to use shockwave emitters, knocking back defenders. One drone exploded mid-air. Several villagers fell. "Fall back," Jason ordered. "Use the temple path." The temple breached. Jason and Lyra retreated with half the defenders into the ancient temple, where the final stand would happen. Inside, the core reactor pulsed. The backup shield was online. For now. Lyra panted beside him. "They're pushing. Too fast. We can't hold them forever." Jason checked the suit's power. Only 47% left. But then, the console beeped. A message flashed. Encrypted vault unlocked. Evidence file. 47A. Project Dominion. Jason's eyes widened. This was it. The data his grandfather had hidden. Inside were files, holograms, voice logs, proof that the Union had created Sigma, funded illegal wars, burned planets, silenced witnesses. Jason backed up the files to a drone, the last remaining Sky Scout. "If I die," he told it, "you keep flying. Get this to anyone who will listen." The drone beeped and took off into the clouds, Just in time, because the temple walls exploded. Sigma soldiers poured in. The turning point, Jason fought like a storm. The exosuit unleashed waves of force. He used every skill he knew, every memory of training, every piece of his grandfather's old logs. But there were too many. A soldier slammed a sonic blade into Jason's shoulder. Sparks flew, systems failing. He fell to one knee. Another soldier raised a plasma cannon. "Commander!" Lyra screamed, and leaped in front of the shot. The blast hit her square in the side. She collapsed. Jason saw red. He screamed, a roar of rage, grief, and fury, and unleashed the full suit override. The suit surged with energy, overloading. He moved like lightning, and in seconds, every Sigma soldier in that chamber was down, but so was Jason. His suit smoked. Lights flickered, his strength fading. He crawled to Lyra. She was still breathing. Barely. "I told you not to be a hero," he said, voice shaking. She smiled weakly. "Then why did you come here?" He didn't answer. He just held her hand. The sky burns. Above them, the Sigma warship began charging its main weapon. The sky turned white. Jason knew what was coming. Planetary cleansing, a blast that would erase everything. He limped to the core console. Power. Redirect power. He saw an option. Manual override. Direct fire back at source. It would overload the temple's reactor, destroy it, and take the Sigma ship with it. But he'd be at the center. Lyra's hand clutched his. "No." Jason smiled, sadly. "My grandfather stayed because he believed in something." He kissed her forehead. "Now I understand." He activated the override, the light and the legacy. The skies flashed. From the jungle, the villagers looked up and saw the Sigma ship light up with blue fire. Then, an explosion unlike anything they'd ever seen. The warship vanished in a sphere of silent light. And the temple, too, was gone. Aftermath days passed, smoke cleared. From the rubble, the villagers searched, and there, in the dust, was the pendant, still warm, still shining. They never found Jason's body, but they built a statue of him beside the one of his grandfather. The two men who stayed, the two men who chose love over war. Far away in deep space, the Sky Scout drone flew, carrying the truth. And in the distance, somewhere in the stars, someone was listening. The new legend. The galaxy moved on. Worlds spun. Wars raged. Empires rose and fell. And somewhere in the quiet corners of space, a small silent drone cut through the void, barely holding itself together. Its mission was simple: deliver the truth. Its cargo: data files, evidence, voice logs, visuals, the full story of Valari 9, the secret war, the forbidden project. And two men who chose not to obey, but to do what was right. First, no one listened. But then someone did. And that changed everything. A message reaches Earth. 3 weeks after the Sigma ship was destroyed over Valari 9, the drone reached Earth's outer defense grid. Automated systems scanned the contents. A red flag appeared. Classified Black Ops file. Project Dominion. Within hours, Union High Command was in chaos. A hidden hearing was called. An internal investigation began. The public was told it was a data breach from an old archive. But it wasn't old, it was fresh, and it carried one final message, a voice recording attached by Jason himself. "My name is Commander Jason Ward. I was sent to Valari 9 under peaceful orders, but I discovered the truth. The Union lied. It erased my grandfather from history, and it's still erasing people. Sigma isn't rogue. It's a ghost army, still working in the shadows. I saw what they did. I saw what we've done. I chose to stay. Not because I wanted to be a hero, but because I refused to be a coward." The voice shook something loose inside the people. It leaked. First on fringe networks, then across inner systems. Finally, the truth exploded into the public. Whistleblowers came forward. Old names were exposed. The legend of the two wards, grandfather and grandson, spread like fire. Valari 9, once forgotten, became a symbol, not of war, but of resistance. On Valari 9, a new dawn years passed. The jungle slowly healed. The crater where the temple once stood became a shrine, covered in vines and flowers. Children visited every season. They laid pebbles at the base of the two statues, letting James Ward, the man, who stayed when no one else would. CMDR Jason Ward, the man who returned and chose to protect. At the foot of the statues, etched into stone, were the final words both men once said, "There's no need to bow." Lyra's voice Lyra became the new guardian of Valari 9. She limped now, a scar across her side, but her spirit was stronger than ever. She spoke to young warriors, taught them to defend, not to conquer, to question orders, not follow blindly. In died. Her hut. She kept a small silver pendant in a glass case. Sometimes she would speak to it, not in prayer, in memory. He said he'd go home, but he never left, because here is where his fight mattered. He was not just a soldier. He was ours. The trial of the shadows back on Earth, trials began. Retired generals were forced to testify. Sigma. Operations were shut down. Officially. But in the corners of space, the shadows never die that easily. Still, people began to look deeper, question more, remember the forgotten. The story of Valari 9 was told in schools. A new history book was written, The Men Who Chose to Stay. In the final chapter there was a line, "When the world told them to leave, they stayed. When the Union told them to forget, they remembered. When they were ordered to look away, they opened their eyes. And because of that, the galaxy began to change." Far from the stars. Many years later, a new ship landed quietly on Valari 9. A young officer stepped out, nervous, unsure. In his hand was a letter, one written by his father, the child Jason never got to meet. The young man walked the jungle paths his grandfather once did. He came to the shrine, laid the letter there, and whispered, "I didn't know you, but I carry your name. I'll make sure it still means something." Then he turned and walked away. As he left, the wind stirred, and for just a moment, the leaves whispered back. There are battles no one sees, choices no one honors, sacrifices that never make it into history. But sometimes a single voice, a single act, a single person can shake the stars.